My talk for today is titled Gig Economy Overview, Prospects, and Challenges. This is partly based on an article that I co-wrote with my colleague Ian Benedict Mia back in 2020. But today I'm going to include mga more recent information kasi medyo luma na yung 2020 article. Okay. So what do these people have in common? The Grab driver, the web designer, the freelance writer, and the blogger have in common. So all of these people, yung isa pala dito is an online seller, the one on the lower left. So all of these people belong to what we call the gig economy. So let me present you with two definitions. The first one is from Esguerra. It describes a labor market environment in which jobs are short-term in nature, workers are predominantly independent contractors, and no employer-employee relationship exists between the transacting parties. So when we wrote our article, we revised the definition to include the digital technology component. So our definition is that it refers to a labor market that consists of jobs that are short-term in nature and mediated by remote working digital platforms, with workers being predominantly independent contractors. So I'm presenting several other definitions so that you have a fuller understanding, about this concept that we call the gig economy. So Woodcock and Graham defines the gig economy as labor markets that are characterized by independent contracting that happens through, via, and on digital platforms. The ASEAN Post says that it refers to the hiring of independent contractors and short-term workers by businesses. Nagamura says it refers to new technology-enabled kinds of work, often temporary jobs that are commonplace in companies that rely on independent contractors and freelancers. So we have two other definitions. It refers to emerging alternative work arrangements that are enabled by digital technologies, and it involves the rapid spread of startups that connect and mediate between buyers and sellers in a range of markets, but particularly markets for in-person services. So you can see among these different definitions that there seems to be a pattern. Although we don't have yet an official definition here in the Philippines because we don't have a law that talks about the definition of a gig worker. So to give you a little bit more information about the gig economy, allow me to share with you a 2-minute video. Sandali lang. So let's watch this video.
The word gig usually conjures visions of a one-off musical performance. It happens once and then the band is off to find their next performance, or gig. Gig is actually a slang term, meaning a job for a specified period of time. But it's found its way into mainstream business vocabularies as more and more communities trend toward a gig economy. A gig economy is a free market system in which temporary positions are common. Freelancers, independent contractors, project-based workers, and temporary hires all fall under the title gig workers and are found across every industry. Gig employees could be writers, rideshare drivers, photographers, accountants, realtors, handymen, programmers, tutors, artists, dog walkers, really anyone who enters into formal agreements with a company to provide services without being on the company's payroll. With digitization, the workforce is increasingly mobile, so workers can select temporary jobs from around the world, and employers can find the best individuals for each job, without as much geographic constraint. The gig economy also saves businesses resources, like benefits, office space, and training, while providing employees benefits like an improved work-life balance and freedom to select jobs, or gigs, that they're interested in. While this flexibility is appealing, gig workers in turn usually trade that in for modest pay, little or no health or retirement benefits, tax complications, and out-of-pocket equipment expenses. And there's a blurred line between those who voluntarily work as contractors and those who are being taken advantage of by an employer that might classify someone as a contractor to get out of paying fair wages and benefits.
Okay, so I hope you got something from that brief video. Let's go back to my PowerPoint presentation. Are you seeing the PowerPoint presentation again? Okay, so let's proceed. So what I have here is a comparison of the definitions between a freelancer and an independent contractor, just so we are clear about what we mean. Because even if these are both workers in the gig economy, there is a distinction between the two. So when it comes to the nature of the work relationship, both the freelancer and the independent contractor work independently. They are self-employed. But the difference is that the freelancer is often hired for short-term projects, while the independent contractor may enter into longer-term contracts or agreements with a single client. So the freelancer has a high degree of autonomy in how they complete their work. Whereas the independent contractor may work on-site at the client's premises, or they may work remotely. It really depends on the nature of the job. So typically, the freelancer often offers specialized services or expertise in areas such as writing, graphic design, web development, and consulting, and may work on diverse projects for various clients. Whereas the independent contractor may provide a broader range of services, including professional services, technical services, or even manual labor, that a company might require, but is not the main nature of the business of the company. So clearly, it is a way by which the company is able to save on compensation for workers that are not directly contributing value to their products and services. So I got this from Talent Desk. So again, this is a comparison of a contractor and the freelancer based on several dimensions. So contract periods are longer for contractors and shorter for freelancers. The setting of roles is decided, of rates is decided by the company or the agency on the case of the contractor, but it is decided by the freelancer himself or herself. So the kind of work that the contractor does would be recurrent jobs, typically with one particular company, whereas the freelancer will be doing irregular jobs because they shift from one client to the next. All right. So just some data. According to a 2019 report by Pioneer, the Philippines ranks 6th out of the top 10 countries in the world in terms of year-over-year revenue growth in the global gig economy index. So this is how we compare with the other countries in the top 10. So number 1 is the United States, 78% growth. United Kingdom, 59% growth in the gig economy. So the other countries are Brazil, Pakistan, Ukraine, India, Bangladesh, Russia, and Serbia. So I've chosen to highlight 2 opportunities for Filipinos. Number 1 is the employment and training opportunities for freelancers, partly because of the support given by government. And number 2, the large pool of talents for companies. So we can see the gig economy from the point of view of the freelancer and from the point of view of the company. So I'm just showing you some examples. So the government initiated this program called Digital Jobs PH Technical Training, okay, which is meant to help people find work as digital entrepreneurs and freelancers. So this is commonly offered to people coming from rural communities who are seeking more lucrative work. The training programs that this offers include digital marketing, search engine optimization, virtual assistants, graphic design, content writing, website development, and social media marketing. Now, companies are now also able to attract talent from across the world because of the gig economy. So Graham and Anwar came up with the term planetary labor market. So in this market, the world is witnessing the emergence of a hyper-connected global market where any task conceivable by companies can now be outsourced through digital platforms. So Filipino companies can get workers from the rest of Southeast Asia or even from America or Europe. And in the same way, companies in the US, for instance, or in Europe, can get talent from the Philippines. Now, this is happening in many areas, including in animation, for instance. So in the Philippines, this means that companies now have access to talent pool beyond its regular constraints in the local labor market, especially if the company's business model is not dependent on a brick and mortar setup. So companies in Metro Manila can get talents from people from Mindanao without having to fly over these people all the way to the NCR if the work can be done by the person in their respective homes. I also wanted to highlight some challenges attached to the gig economy. So number one will be the lack of stability and lack of social safety nets for workers, the lack of legal frameworks, and the digital divide. So PayPal in 2017 found that 92% of Filipino freelancers said job stability is a key concern for their careers. It is difficult, particularly for freelancers, to plan for the future because they constantly shift from one contract to another. According to the ASEAN Post 2020, Filipino gig workers lack social safety nets, financial security, and health and retirement plans. So this means that under the current setup, freelancers will have to embed in their costing a certain amount so that they can provide for these things that they need when they get older and cannot work anymore. So right now, there is a lack of policy and governmental support for quality work or projects, workers' protection, and access to benefits, not only in the Philippines, but in other countries as well, no? Probably not in the United States. So since gig workers are not covered by labor laws, they are not officially entitled to the benefits of traditional employees receive. No? There are also no generally agreed upon definitions of the gig economy, freelancers, etc. in the legal lexicon, which makes it more difficult to develop labor laws and models as fast as how the gig economy is growing. So some people would argue that we need laws to protect people. Some take the position that perhaps let's not look into the laws. No? The market itself will develop the mechanisms that will result in the protection of these workers. But this is probably something that you can talk about in your conversation later. Should we regulate the gig economy, or should we just let it be and try to see how it settles over time? The third challenge is what we call the digital divide. So while the gig economy has opened up opportunities for millions of Filipinos, particularly those who are highly educated and working in areas where talent is valued, there are also millions of people, particularly in the rural areas, that do not have the infrastructure, telecommunication infrastructure, etc., and that do not have the education that will allow them to take advantage of these opportunities. So this is an important consideration for government and even educational institutions to address. Now, the next few slides are implications of the gig economy on HR departments. I thought that maybe this might be of interest to many of you, okay, here in this conversation. So the first one would be flexible workforce management. So HRM departments need to adapt to managing a more flexible and dynamic workforce. Dealing with independent contractors, freelancers, and part-time workers requires new strategies for recruitment, onboarding, and managing performance. Number two would be recruitment challenges. With more workers opting for gig roles, HRM departments may face challenges in attracting and retaining talent for traditional roles. I don't know if this is already happening in the Philippines. Maybe some of you in the companies now can confirm whether this is the case. So they must revamp their recruitment strategies to appeal to gig workers and compete effectively for their skills. Number three will be training and development. As the workforce becomes more diverse and fragmented, HRM departments must rethink their training programs and find ways to provide relevant skills training to gig workers, even if they are not employed on a long-term basis. Especially for part-time workers, for instance, no, or project workers, these people must also be trained, especially when they're customer-facing. Performance management. Traditional performance management systems may not be suitable for gig workers who operate on short-term contracts. HRM departments may need to develop new ways of assessing the performance of gig workers and to provide them with meaningful feedback. Okay, some people will argue that maybe we don't need this because if we're not satisfied with the performance of the independent contractor, we can simply replace the person, right, with another individual. But some people will argue, why do we need to replace an independent contractor if this person is reliable, right? So it works to the advantage of the company to stick to also an independent contractor that he or she already knows and trusts. So again, these are areas that people in the industry will have to think about. Now, we want to save on money, okay, but at the same time, we want a good performance from people. Okay, so how do we reconcile those seemingly conflicting goals? Next, compensation and benefits. Gig workers often lack access to traditional employee benefits such as healthcare, retirement plans, and paid time off. HRM departments may need to explore alternative compensation and benefits models to attract and retain gig workers while staying within budget constraints. Next, technology integration. HRM departments can leverage technology solutions such as freelancer management systems and online platforms to streamline the recruitment and other processes for gig workers. Integrating these technologies into existing HR systems is essential for effective gig workforce management. So I'd like to share with you some popular digital platforms and their characteristics. I placed the URL here so that you can also visit it to find out what they're actually doing, but we won't have time to go and take a look at each one of these. So I'll just highlight a few. No? So Upwork, for instance, includes complex projects and long-term contracts and has a software and marketing focus. So it's focused on that particular business area. So you have TopTal, which focuses on corporate hires, involves rigorous screening of applicants, and provides lucrative awards. Guru has feedback scores and provides flexible payment rates. So I haven't seen all of these, but you can see that certain platforms have certain things that they offer depending maybe on the requirements of the company that they're targeting. And there are also other platforms like People Per Hour, Aquent, which includes auto matching of workers with clients, 99 Designs, and Solid Gigs. So mamaya siguro yung iba sa inyo na titingnan na bawat isa dito looking for new opportunities. Okay. And finally, we have legal and regulatory compliance. HRM departments must navigate the complex legal and regulatory landscape surrounding gig work including issues related to employment classification, tax compliance, benefits eligibility, and labor laws. Ensuring compliance with these regulations is crucial to avoid legal liabilities. As I mentioned earlier, in the Philippines, we don't have the law yet concerning the gig economy, and therefore companies do not need to worry about these things yet. Okay, but what happens is that if gig workers feel that they are exploited, there will be a pushback, right? And there will be a move towards strict regulations. And therefore, either we take care of them right now under a non-regulatory environment, or we should prepare ourselves, okay, for the inevitability that laws will be passed by Congress, and therefore we will have to make sure now that we will not violate these laws once they are in place. So I'll show you another 3-minute video that highlights the dark side of the gig economy. Although this is based in the US, but conceivably this is something that can happen also in the Philippines in the near future. So let's watch this video. Teka lang. Wait, wala yung link. So let me do it manually. So we will go back to YouTube.
Drinking coffee every day didn't work for me, but I couldn't figure out why until I went from 184.
Allowing companies to get away with this, classifying workers as independent contractors when they really should be classified as employees, is really a form of corporate welfare. It's allowing these companies to profit at the expense of workers, the public, our state and federal governments. We've been seeing in recent years more and more companies that are trying to classify their workers as independent contractors rather than as employees. And when companies do this, they sidestep all labor protections, because if the workers aren't employees, not only do they not have to abide by all of the wage laws and all of the employment rules that we have in place to protect workers, but the companies get to save on their tax obligations. I'm thinking in particular of one of my clients. He was a courier for Postmates, and one day he was in an accident. He got hit by a car while he was biking, and he had to be taken to the hospital in an ambulance. And then he was injured for his work for this company, but he didn't have health insurance through the company, and he wasn't even covered by workers' comp because he was classified as an independent contractor. There are so many stories out there like this. So what's been getting a lot of attention in the media in recent years are the so-called gig economy companies. Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, DoorDash, Amazon, Postmates. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. So many companies and so many industries are trying to figure out how to shoehorn their workers into this independent contractor status so that they don't have to worry about any of those wage rights, employment protections, workers organizing unions. What we really need are clear lines and clear rules in order to enforce these rules and to ensure that companies are operating on an even playing field. Right now, in so many states around the country and under our federal law, we have these multi-factor tests. The IRS has a 20-factor test. Other parts of the country have 10 or 12-factor tests for determining who's an employee and who's an independent contractor. And the problem is the more factors you have in these tests, the more it allows these companies to go in to court, hire high-priced lawyers, and make all these arguments about why these workers should be independent contractors. When we have more straightforward tests, clear-cut tests, like the ABC test that we have here in Massachusetts, which has recently been adopted by California. With that kind of more simple test, everyone can be on the same page. I am very concerned that unless we do something soon about these companies that are trying to upend all of the rules of the workplace, that in the coming decades, we will not have employment anymore in this country.
All right. So what I showed you earlier is the situation in the States. Okay, but conceivably, it can happen in other settings, including the Philippines, no, where our regulatory environment is actually weaker than in Western countries. So I'll just give you some data taken from the article that we wrote. So Filipino workers in the gig economy experience the lack of social safety nets, financial security, and health retirement plans. So without savings or health benefits, freelancing can become overwhelming and stressful. So our other speaker later might want to either validate or dispute these findings based on her own experience. In most of Southeast Asia, the gig economy is unregulated. Therefore, they are easy targets for exploitation. Gig workers are either overworked or underpaid. PayPal revealed that 58% of freelancers in 4 Southeast Asian markets, namely Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam, have experienced not being paid. The key reason for which is that freelancers are not being taken seriously by clients. So can you imagine that, no? You're getting a service of value, but you think that they are doing it for free, no? So it's a little bit absurd. In the Philippines, there are pending legislation. So House Bill number 6926, also known as the National Digital Careers Act of 2020, has been introduced in the House of Representatives. It aims to enhance the competitiveness of Filipino gig economy workers through access to necessary training, skills development, and scholarship programs as the country transitions to the new normal. So in the bill, government agencies are tasked to develop a master plan to provide access to training, market support, labor standards, and other forms of assistance to workers pursuing digital careers. I was not able to include in my presentation another Senate bill, a more recent one, that's called the POWER Act, no, double R. I forgot what it is, so you can Google it later, no? POWERR Act. So it talks about also protection of workers belonging to the gig economy. So in our article, we made a call to action. Number one, we said that we needed to bridge the digital divide, and we gave examples there. We need to revisit labor laws and regulations so that we can come up with adequate protections for the gig economy workers without being too controlling. Okay, that might discourage, let's say, more innovative business models to emerge. And then we said that there is a need to educate workers in the gig economy so that they themselves can collectively organize and find ways by which they can improve their collective welfare. We're already seeing this, let's say, among Grab drivers. No? They have organized themselves and they've had some public action trying to influence, no, the corporate policies of Grab, for instance. No? And because of this, there have been some improvements in the benefits that Grab offers its different independent contractors. So if you're interested to find out about some of the things that I talked about in this presentation, you can read the full paper. And I provided the link here. So I think the PowerPoint deck will be shared with you. It's going to be in PDF format so that you, when you have more time, you can read this article. So with that, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you very much for listening to what I